You are looking at the end of the dead zone. For 30 years, the promise of mobile phones was freedom, the ability to connect from anywhere. But the reality was different. We were tethered to cell towers. If you walked too far into the forest, sailed too far from the coast, or drove through the desert, you went dark. That limitation is now effectively over. And the company responsible isn't a massive tech giant or a legacy telecom carrier. It is AST SpaceMobile. Today, we are going to dissect the investment thesis of AST SpaceMobile as we stand here in early 2026. This is not a speculative story anymore. The days of wondering, will the technology work, are behind us. The questions now are about scale, execution, and the massive cash flow potential sitting right in front of them. We are going to look at the pivotal financial data from 2024 and 2025, the successful deployment of the Block 1 BlueBird satellites, and the historic commercial agreements with AT&T, Verizon, and Vodafone that have validated this business model once and for all. Let's start with the fundamental problem and the breakthrough solution. The world has over 5 billion mobile phones, yet half of the planet's landmass has no cellular coverage. The economic cost of this disconnect is measured in the trillions. The solution AST SpaceMobile engineered was elegant, but incredibly difficult to put the cell tower in space. But unlike Starlink or Iridium, which require you to buy a special dish or a proprietary brick-like phone, AST's satellites speak the language of your current smartphone. The turning point for this company, the moment the risk profile fundamentally shifted, happened between late 2024 and early 2025. If you look at the 2024 annual report, you see a company that incurred a net loss of $300 million. To the untrained eye, that looks like cash burn. To the intelligent investor, that was the cost of building the machine. That capital expenditure funded the final development and launch of the Block 1 BlueBird satellites. And what happened when those satellites went up? Validation. In February 2025, AST SpaceMobile successfully conducted the first video call using the Block 1 BlueBirds. This wasn't a simulation. It was a standard smartphone connecting to a satellite, moving at 17,000 miles per hour, handling broadband data. This technical victory effectively de-risked the science. We know it works, but technology means nothing without a business model. This is where the 2024 and 2025 filings get truly exciting. We saw a holy trinity of partnerships solidify. For years, skeptics asked, will the carriers fight them? The answer turned out to be a resounding no. The carriers are funding them. In May 2024, AT&T entered into a definitive commercial agreement. They didn't just sign a paper. They put down $20 million in non-refundable commercial payments. Then Verizon, the largest carrier in the U.S., joined the party with a commitment of up to $65 million in commercial prepayments. And in December 2024, Vodafone solidified a long-term agreement through 2034. Why does this matter? Because AST SpaceMobile does not have to spend billions on marketing. They don't have to open retail stores. They don't have to acquire customers. AT&T and Verizon already have the customers, hundreds of millions of them. AST simply acts as a wholesale provider of coverage. When an AT&T customer walks out of cell tower range, their phone switches to AST's space network, and AST collects a high-margin revenue share. It is a B2B2C model with zero customer acquisition costs. Let's look at the financials from the third quarter of 2025. We see a company transitioning from R&D to commercial operations. The prepayments we saw in the filings are now converting into the first trickles of recognized revenue. But the real story is the asset base. The BlueBird satellites are massive. They feature the largest commercial communications arrays ever, deployed in low Earth orbit. This size matters. A larger array means a stronger signal, which means higher data speeds for the user on the ground. The growth trajectory for the next 5 years is built on the Block 2 satellites. While Block 1 proved the network, Block 2 is designed for capacity. The filings from late 2025 highlight the aggressive manufacturing ramp-up for these satellites. This is where the future growth thesis lives. As they launch more Block 2 birds, they don't just add coverage, they add capacity. Capacity equals data. Data equals revenue. We also need to talk about the moat. AST SpaceMobile has built a patent fortress around this technology. But their biggest moat is regulatory. Getting FCC approval to use terrestrial spectrum from space is incredibly difficult. AST has navigated this minefield. successfully securing permissions that would take a competitor years to replicate. They have the spectrum rights, they have the technology, and they have the partners. Risks, of course. This is space. Launch delays can happen. Manufacturing supply chains can snarl, and they will need to continue managing their cash carefully as they fund. The Block 2 constellation. The 2025 filings show a company that is capital intensive. They have raised funds through equity and prepayments to keep the lights on and the rockets launching. Investors need to be comfortable with the fact that free cash flow, positivity is a destination, not the current location. However, the payoff potential is asymmetric. If AST SpaceMobile captures even a fraction of the global roaming and connectivity, a market valued in the hundreds of billions, their current valuation will look remarkably cheap in hindsight. They are not just building a better mousetrap. They are building the first global bridge for the digital divide. In conclusion, AST SpaceMobile in 2026 is a very different beast than it was in 2023. The technology is proven. The partners are locked in. The satellites are in orbit. The question is no longer if they can do it, but how fast they can scale. For the patient investor, who understands the power of infrastructure monopolies, AST SpaceMobile represents one of the most compelling growth stories of the decade.